All right, welcome, folks. I am Jabby Kaway, joined by Char Kirk.
What's up?
We're looking at Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is in Trouble, Morbius early reviews. So this is from the Cosmic Wonder. Thank you, Cosmic Wonder, for allowing us to react to this. Very, very much appreciate it, y'all. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, bell icon, all notifications, and pretty please vote this up to let YouTube know you're enjoying what you're watching. While you're subscribing and upvoting, please subscribe to Cosmic Wonder. There's a link in the description below for the video that we're about to look at together. If you want to click on that link, get the original and upvote and subscribe to them from there. All right, here we go.
What is going on, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, where we talk all things Marvel and MCU. And I know a lot of people were really excited about Morbius and the possibility of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man returning in some way, shape, or form, and possibly being in the movie Morbius. And if not in Morbius, hopefully returning to the Sony Spider-Man universe, whether in his own film or an upcoming Spider-Man film like Kraven the Hunter or Madam Web. But now, I'm actually quite concerned for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man because of what is happening right now with Morbius. Now, some of the press has had the opportunity to see Morbius in full, and they have posted their initial reactions online, and unfortunately, they're not very good. Now, I'll go over these and talk about what to actually expect from the movie Morbius, but we also need to talk about what this means for Andrew Garfield's future in the Sony Spider-Man universe. It looks like it could be really, really bad, but there are ways to save it. So let's go ahead and talk about what exactly is going on here.
Did you see any of Greg's video talking about the Morbius reviews?
I saw a little bit of it, but I saw the titles and I was like, this is what I was scared of.
I watched about half of his video and I was like, okay, I see where this is all headed. This is not good.
The idea seemed really cool, and as you know, I do love my vampires.
Right.
So obviously more vampires in MCU films. Cool. Yeah. Let's have him, but I'm sad now.
So we're going to be talking about Morbius a little bit right now. Like I said, the initial reactions are out, and the post-credit scenes have actually been leaked. Now I'm not really going to go over them in detail because I don't want to go over that many spoilers for the movie, but I will generally talk about them just so we can link it to Spider-Man. Now, here's kind of the first red flag that I heard about Morbius that made me go, oh no, Spider-Man might be in trouble. And Sony and Marvel Studios also made it very clear that Tom Holland's Spider-Man is not going to be the Spider-Man that could have possibly appeared in Morbius and other Sony Pictures Universe films, which leads us to believe, along with all of the reports and the rumors, that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man would be the one in the Sony Pictures Universe. In the trailer for Morbius, we see Morbius walking down an alleyway, and on the side of the wall is a picture of Spider-Man. That got everybody super freaked out, super hyped up, very excited. However, it doesn't look like that's in the movie. According to some of the press that has seen the film already, they took that part out. You no longer see Spider-Man on the wall. Now, the big...
This is the first time you're hearing about this?
Yeah.
Like, legitimately?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
What? Why?
No, I just wanted to know, because I had heard about that being removed.
I'm already, like, getting quite worked up internally because I feel like Andrew Garfield didn't get his opportunity to really shine in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, right? Like, he didn't get to complete his trilogy. All the other Spider-Man got 3. He got 2. Now it's all like, oh, bad news. Okay, I'll wait.
Andrew Garfield is the Pierce Brosnan of Spider-Man.
No.
Why did they do this? Now, I think this is kind of a good thing, but also kind of a bad thing. According to some people that I've spoken to, that originally was indeed going to be in the film. It's not something they just put in the trailer to hype people up. That was actually supposed to be there. However, as many people may know, they did a lot of reshoots for Morbius recently and changed a few things, including Michael Keaton coming back to do some reshoots himself. And one of the things they changed, of course, was Spider-Man coming off the wall. Now, of course, it's a bad thing because, well, they kind of took Spider-Man out of the movie. I would not expect Spider-Man to show up anywhere in this movie, even in the post-credit scene, in which he doesn't actually show up, but we'll kind of talk about that in a bit.
There's no pun there? Spider-Man coming off the wall? Spider-Man.
Oh, okay, gotcha, yeah.
It is related to Spider-Man. But on the better note, hopefully they took that part out of the movie because they have other plans for him. After the release of Spider-Man No Way Home, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man got his redemption in the film. Everybody loved Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man in Spider-Man No Way Home. He gave an amazing, emotional performance, and everybody wants him back. Everybody wants the Amazing Spider-Man 3 to happen now. There's even a petition going on out there about it. And the official Spider-Man Twitter account has even said that they have acknowledged everybody wanting to do that, and they've acknowledged the Make TASM 3 hashtag, but they also said they're not the studio, they don't make films, but they're still Sony. So Sony has definitely acknowledged this. And hopefully, with the massive success that Spider-Man No Way Home had and the big appreciation for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Hopefully this made Sony rethink some things and think about how to incorporate Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man in their Sony Spider-Man universe somehow, and hopefully that's where these changes are coming from. Because, as I'll talk about in just a bit, there are plans for Spider-Man with Sony. They make this very clear in Morbius. But let's talk about what some of the critics are saying so far, because it looks like they're pretty disappointed. Now, let me add that you should see this movie and make an opinion for yourself. Don't just listen to the opinions of other people. Just because they don't like something or like it doesn't mean that that's how you have to feel.
This happens all the time, though, where like critics will hate on something and then the fans staunchly, stubbornly like something just because the critics hated it, and they're like, no, no, no.
Sometimes it can work to the benefit of the film if all the critics are like, oh my god, it's so bad, it's terrible, and you go in expecting like a complete shit show.
Hashtag not that bad.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, what are they talking about? I had fun.
Hashtag not the worst thing ever.
Here's what Sab Astley from Collider had to say. Well, Morbius is about as bad as you were expecting. A 2005 plot collides with visually confusing CGI to create a bit of a snooze fest, but don't worry, they saved the worst for last, featuring some of the worst post-credit scenes you've ever seen. Sony are off
that's
their
what
rocker.
That's what a lot of people
said.
said.
This was kind of one of my bigger fears for Morbius because they finished shooting this thing over 3 years ago, I believe. Now, of course, it was delayed due to the pandemic, and that's no one's fault, but it's changed dates so many times. But Wolf of Geek Street said, in Morbius, Matt Smith gloriously hams up the place, and Oliver Wood delivers some visual flair to the action sequences. Aside from that, the bad plotting and messy CGI, confusing editing, and worst sound mix result in absolute incoherence, but the post-credits manage to outdo it all.
Wow.
It's like just collectively as a movie it failed. It could not even pass like just the technical aspects of making a film. It's just all just a big befuddled, confusing mess. Every inch of it.
Is it because they just stopped caring? Were they just like, oh my god, what a shit show. Never mind, we don't even need to try and make the sound good or anything.
When you're being criticized collectively on a bad sound mix, you got some major problems.
Well, yeah, hardly anyone ever criticizes a sound mix.
Christopher Nolan's gotten criticized for his sound mixes, but they're like, generally speaking, the movie's good enough that they're like, well, I'll allow it.
And it's almost like a thing with Christopher Nolan, though. Like, you come to expect.
With Tenet, though, it was not collectively appreciated, and so then people were like, and the sound mix on top of that.
Rubbish.
If you reach the point in a criticism where now the sound mix is being talked about, that means the movie is so flipping bad
that you had time to notice that the sound mix was terrible.
Bad, but the post-credits are worse. Now, from what I've heard about the post-credits, again, I won't go into details about them, but if you don't want to know anything about them, I'm briefly going to talk about slight spoilers. From what these critics have said about the post-credits, the two of them are connected to each other, don't make that much sense, and they kind of talk about Spider-Man. They don't show Spider-Man, but they lead us to believe that there is going to be something with Spider-Man happening in the future. I mention this because most of the critics are mentioning the post-credits as well. Cameron Howe says, Morbius is just as disjointed and boring as you expected it to be. Clearly butchered in an edit by a studio who had no clue what they wanted to do with it. Not that there's a good film trapped in there. Mid-credits are a joke, but stick around if you like rolling your eyes. And there are a few other reviews out there that talk about how confusing the story is. But we really don't need to dive into any more reviews. Now, I think it's very clear that they didn't really know what they wanted to do with Morbius. I think originally they had planned on some type of Spider-Man being in the film, and I hope that it changed because they want to incorporate Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man into their universe, but now I'm kind of concerned. Spider-Man No Way Home was awesome, but it was because it was partnered with Marvel Studios and took place inside of the MCU. Kevin Feige was in charge. If they make The Amazing Spider-Man 3, Sony's going to be in complete control of it. Marvel Studios isn't going to be involved at all unless Sony asks them to help, in which they might not. They probably won't, actually. Now, like I said, the post-credit seems to at least tease that something is going to happen with Spider-Man, and I want to assume that it's Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man considering everything that we've heard. But what does this mean? Does this mean that The Amazing Spider-Man 3 is coming? Does this mean that Andrew Garfield is going to be in Kraven the Hunter, or Madam Web, or a Spider-Woman movie that Sony is developing? Because it does seem very clear. Sony has, of course, their own Spider-Man universe, but there is no Spider-Man. It just doesn't make sense, but it does seem like they have a plan to include Spider-Man in it in some way, shape, or form. But Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man had such a redemption in Spider-Man No Way Home, I'm now kind of worried for him, because at this point, I don't necessarily want him brought into this mess. Now, Morbius could be an amazing movie for some people, and if it is, awesome. And Kraven the Hunter could be an amazing movie as well. Madam Web could be great, and Sony could turn it around after this, because again, Morbius was shot over 3 years ago. It went through a bunch of reshoots, a bunch of delays. A lot can happen in 3 years, and again, Spider-Man No Way Home might have changed what Sony wanted to do with Spider-Man, so this could be a good thing. thing that Morbius is kind of messy. Not for Morbius the movie itself, but for the future of Spider-Man and other Spider-Man related films. I'm hoping things are getting messy because they're making changes to incorporate a Spider-Man in their universe. I hope it's Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and I hope they do it right. But again, I'm kind of concerned, but let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below.
The reason why we got a reboot of Spider-Man within close proximity to Tobey Maguire leaving, Sony and Spider-Man, all that stuff. Sony has a very strange deal. If they don't make more Spider-Man movies within a certain proximity of time, they lose their rights to it. That's why Sony's keeps doing this. And so they see what Marvel's doing and they're like, oh, Marvel's got this whole cinematic universe thing, so we have to have our cha-ching cinematic universe.
Just keep spitting out movies, they'll come and watch it, right?
So Venom is an entertaining movie, both of them, but they're not good movies.
Agreed, yeah.
And Sony made a buttload of cash with those bad movies. We were at least slightly entertained by. The assumption is, in the cha-ching cinematic universe, if you just keep doing that, you'll keep making money, and you create more of a playground for your Spider-Man character to play with and to have fun with, and ideally you expand in such a way that you get your own sort of knockoff MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, that Disney has. There's all this talk of crossover with Venom and Spider-Man, and so they're trying to gin up excitement with that. Yo, if Kevin Feige's not running the show, you're just doing this wrong.
Either they need Kevin Feige or they need a Kevin Feige, someone who has a grand vision for where everything is going, because it seems like they're just trying everything.
Kevin Feige is the Steve Jobs of the comic book movies right now.
Yeah.
He literally is. He didn't invent the computer, but he made it fucking work. I apologize if you're an Apple hater or something like that, but that analogy fucking works and you know it. DC is obviously, improving and coming out with better stuff, but I feel like MCU's got the system down pat.
They know what they're doing.
And so Sony's best move, in my opinion, is to just go, look, we just want the money. We just want our cha-ching cinematic universe. Obviously, they've gone back and forth a bunch, and Sony has struck some absurdly silly deals. I forget exactly what it was, but it was a Nintendo bad deal. Okay, for those of you that don't know, earlier on in YouTube days, when people were doing Let's Play videos and stuff like that, Nintendo's yeah, we're just gonna take that down. And then later on, they're like, okay, you can keep it up, but we have to have a percentage of all the videos on your channel. The deals that they were giving to YouTubers was the worst, most insane, stupid deals. And it's people are trying to share their experiences, which is only ginning up more marketing positivity for their product.
Yeah, it's basically free advertising.
And so I feel like Sony is trying hard to retain more of the profits here. They should just let Kevin Feige run the show.
It does make me sad to think that the mess that Sony has over there, it's oh, come on now. Andrew Garfield did such a good job. He deserves to be in a good Spider-Man movie of his own.
The closest we ever got to a really good James Bond movie with Pierce Brosnan is The Matador. Well, it's not actually James Bond, but it's clearly we chose Pierce Brosnan because he was James Bond. Anyways, you guys, thanks so much for hanging out. Hopefully you enjoyed some of that. Thank you, Warren. It was good to give you a hug at the Moon Knight premiere. I hope Morbius is not as bad as I expect it to be.
If you go in expecting a dumpster fire, maybe it'll just be a trash can fire.
Or maybe you'll get an incinerator. You guys, thanks again. I'm Jabby Kuwait. This is
Achara Kirk.
Peace out.